Today's episode of the Know Your Gear podcast is brought to you by Patreon members, channel members, and viewers who like and subscribe. Thank you for making this possible. The Know Your Gear podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Know Your Gear podcast, episode 376. I hope you guys had a great week and ready to talk about guitars, gear, music, those things. I don't know. I need a script. Just read the script or something. Shooting off the hip sometimes doesn't always work. Okay, so hopefully you guys had a fantastic week. I had a good week. It was actually really good. Had a lot of guitars come in all of a sudden, just bam, 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 bam for videos, and so I'm very busy, which is good. Very busy. And this week, if you didn't watch, I did the Eastman video. And thank you guys for that. Like I said, that basically you guys kept bringing it up. And then a good friend of the channel, Steve, emailed me after one of the podcasts and said, hey, I know those guys. And, I'll do a soft introduction. He emailed them and I said, hey, would you be willing to loan one so we could do a video? And hopefully that'll lead to them sending us other ones to do videos. So very cool guitar. I definitely get why the people who love it. For sure, without a doubt, and I think that's the most important thing. Let's see, lots of stuff to talk about. Of course, we'll have some winners today. So I hope you guys are excited about that. I'm excited, actually. Some fun topics that are attached to the winners too. Let's just get into some early questions and hit that. And no particular order of the early ones, just ones I grabbed. 251 says Phil. I really like the Eastman video. Question: is the headstock break prone like the Gibsons? Yes. I'm giving a guess, man. My guess would be whatever issues that Gibson has with the 17-degree angle, the Eastman would be same susceptibility to it, same just like this Heritage. I did a video that was like one of those big, I think it has 1 million views, I'm not sure, but it's like myths that guitar players believe. And that was a 6-month research video. Those kind of videos are interesting. Like you spend so much time on them. And in that video, which I would probably never do again, I took my own Gibson Les Paul and kind of pressed on it to see how much force you could demonstrate before, you see what would start to break. And those of you guys who have had Gibson headstocks that break know that it's just not so clear. It's not just so easy. They can break a ton of different ways. They can break in the case from the pressure of the headstock bending it. They can break when they drop. And that can happen to most any guitar. Of course, least likely are going to be one-piece maple necks, in my experience. If you have a broken one-piece maple neck, you wanted it broken. Or someone wanted it broken, and so you might want to reevaluate your relationships. But my thought process is, if you're looking for a guitar like a Gibson, you're going to be looking at Heritage, Eastman, and a few others. If you're looking for a guitar that doesn't have Gibson-style issues, shortcomings, so to speak, there's tons of brands out there that will kind of fix that, and so, I mean, that's up to you. The problem for me is like I said, Gibsons, I love Gibsons. I love Gibson guitars. There's just something about them, they're iconic. And so I'm also intrigued by everyone else's take on a Gibson. It's kind of like the Dumble Quest and the Marshall Quest and the Fender Quest, the Fender amps, by the way. Somebody's take on it. Is it improved? Is it the same? It's really cool. I mean, that's the addiction that I have, and that some of you probably have, because you're hanging here on a Friday afternoon instead of being with your friends and family. Susan just mentioned, hey, it says Phil and Shauna, I just received the Enhancifier. Thank you. And you're welcome. I'm glad you got it on time. We left town last Sunday, and we decided, we went to a friend's birthday party in Tucson, Arizona. And and decided to spend 2 nights up in Mount Lemmon, where it was 68 degrees. 65 was the low. When we were hiking, 75 was the high or something like that. It was fantastic. It was amazing. We grew up in Tucson, so we used to drive up to, Mount Lemmon like all the time. But funny enough, I'll get off the subject back to guitars, but funny enough, it's weird going back to, we've been to Mount Lemmon a few times over the last few years. We hadn't been since before COVID. In fact, last time we've been to Mount Lemmon was 2017. But growing up and doing something and then going back to it, like I said, we've been married for coming up on 26 years. There was so much to do at Mount Lemmon, we had no idea, because when we used to go up as kids, we were broke. So you'd ride up with your friends on $3 in gas and then come back down the mountain, and that's all you did. We didn't pull off and stop anywhere. We couldn't afford $4 parking fees and stuff. So we did everything, the chairlift, you name it, we did it all. We had lots of time to burn. A great saying I heard today is, life is wasting time doing things you love. That was a fantastic waste of time. So, David says, does Heritage have the same degrees as Gibson? I don't know. I should know, but I don't know. But here's the good news. It's because I'm not finished with the video, but I have a video. It is of the Heritage guitar. So I know I did a Guitar of the Week where I talked about it, but I have an official, I guess I'm going to call it an official deep dive. But then I also have a comparison video of this Heritage, the Eastman, and my Gibson R9, just to kind of and like all comparison videos I've done, it's not which one's best. It's just, here's the information, and maybe that'll help you. Like I said, like you guys, I'm up at night sometimes looking at some comparisons, not so much to find out which one's better, but to kind of just see what's different about them in case which one I want to try to put my money on. Okay. Mark says it's going to sound weird, but I want an Epiphone. I don't want a Gibson. I'll tell you I can understand that. I'll tell you where I'm at right now since doing the Eastman video. Obviously, I do a lot of research when I do these videos. A lot of not only just the with the measurement tools and stuff like that, but I do a lot of online research. Trying to verify stuff and figure out stuff. One of the things was interesting about Eastman is they. When I talk to a company like Eastman, a lot of these companies, you talk to them and say, hey, let's get something on the channel, send it out. They're going to usually want to send some kind of flagship-y thing, something great, like that guitar, pointing at the Eastman right now. But they had some more obtainable price, like $1,500 Eastmans, which $1,500 is a lot, but that still pushes down now to the high-end Epiphone. So that's what I was really curious to know about. So we'll hopefully get one of those on the channel. It'd be interesting. So hopefully, we'll see. Okay. Mr. Mick says, hey, Phil, thoughts on Synergy amps? My thought on Synergy amps is I just watched it's just a small channel. When I mean small channel, like I don't even think they had a few hundred subscribers. They did a phone video, or, it's a hand camera video of Mark Tremonti talking about the new Creed tour. And all he did was rave about Synergy amps. In fact, I wasn't even clear. I even watched it again if he's even using the PRS amps. They were there. There was 2 of them, and he was kind of mentioning them. But then he kept saying things like the Synergy amps had the best tone, and they're amazing. And then he said the word in the studio, and I was really shocked, given how much he's worked with Paul Reed Smith to make that amp. And of course, my first thoughts was I did get to try the PRS MT100, and I thought it was a little noisy, humming, buzzing wise. And when I say that, I mean the transformers, the amplifier was making noise, and I thought that was one of the things I didn't like about it. In the short time I was exposed to one from a friend, but he seemed to rave about the Synergy amps. I did an interview with Steve Vai, as you guys know, in 2020, and Steve Vai was raving about Synergy amps. Everybody raves about them. I have not played this iteration of Synergy amps. So let me just give you the bias on this. I have owned pretty much all of the Randall module amps. And so the way this works, if you don't know, is Bruce Egnator developed this technology. And so he had the Egnator dual channel modules like the Synergy ones. And then that was licensed in some way to Randall. That's my first experience with it. So as a huge Ty Tabor fan, I wanted, the Egnator. It was too expensive. I got the Randall stuff. I got a Randall head, and I got all the modules. In fact, Randall, I was a dealer, so Randall gave me a special case to put all the modules in. They were like limited edition cases, really cool. And I really liked the modules, although every once in a while the Randall amps would have troubles. Like I'd have technical issues with the amps, not so much the modules, but the amps. And I would hear over and over again that the Egnator modules were better. And interesting enough, the Randalls would work in the Egnator amps, but the Egnator modules would not work on the Randall amps. I then got to try an Egnator, a real one, with the real modules, and I thought it sounded pretty good. And then, as you may know, Bruce Egnator went to work for Boutique Amp Distribution, which makes Friedman amps and makes Wampler pedals, owns Tone King amps, owns now Celdano amps. And through that experience, at some point, Bruce Egnator sells Egnator to Avi, who owns Boutique Amps. And Avi, I believe, owns the Egnator brand. I could be mistaken. I know that brand was shelved a few years back during COVID. They just stopped making Egnator as a brand. And then it was rebranded as Synergy. What I don't know was it changed? Is it improved? Is it the same thing? I just don't know. I don't know. I have what I feel is a good relationship with those guys, but just Synergy has never come up in any of the discussions with them. But I would love to try a Synergy amp. It's one of those things like I'm afraid of those kind of amps. My personality would be, again, to do what I did with Randall. Like, why have all these amps? Why not just have 4 or 5 Synergy modules and build out a super amp? And there's a part of me that wants to do that. But pulling the trigger on that is a little difficult with, I have a lot of great amps. But man, if they ever want to send one out as a loaner, I would definitely check it out because I'm curious. I'm curious about it for sure as a product line. Let's see. Yeah, Richard says that Vi was using the Synergy amps in the current tour with Sammy Hagar. In the discussion I had with Steve, it was very clear to me he is in love with the Synergy amps. And what I saw with Mark Tremonti in that video, I'll link it. I'll find the video. It's in my history because it's not a huge video. I don't know if it even has a couple thousand views yet. I'll link it right now when I timestamp it. In this little like handheld camera video of Mark Tremonti, there was 2 things that I found humorous. One, he's really praising the Synergy stuff, and it's really heartfelt. You can tell. I hear the same tone in his voice I did with Vi. So Vi told me on camera he likes Synergy, and we talked about it. But then off the camera, in our personal little chat, he was just as hyped up and if not more excited. And then Mark made a funny statement about the crazy, if you don't know the crazy shaped PRS that he has, somebody asked him, like, how come PRS doesn't make that? And he's like, oh, PRS said they would have to get new machines to make that, and it's too complicated. And then he said something about they're a traditional company and they really don't do metal. I was like, I thought that was kind of funny. I don't know why that made me chuckle. So it just tells you, like, it's just interesting, right? They should do it as what I was thinking when he said that was, why wouldn't they just do it as an SE then? Cortec could make that guitar, no problem. Hey, if anyone can take a clip of this right now and send it to Mark Tremonti somehow. Hey, Mark Tremonti, Cortec can make anything, and the relationship with PRS and Cortec is so good. I bet you if you went to Jack Higginbotham and said, we need an SE version of this guitar, I think Cortec could make you a fantastic version of that guitar that I would love to buy. You know what I mean? That I would be in on it for. That'd be, because that'd be a reasonable price that I could buy something like that. It's cool because I'm a huge Tremonti fan. I'm a huge Alter Bridge fan. Massive, by the way. So, all right. Yeah, Napalm 1334. I guess I'm saying it. Napalm says surprised to hear about Tremonti and Synergy. I am too. I mean, at first I was looking at logically, like, if you know anything about Tremonti and Creed, he runs the Mesas and then he's running like Fender Twins for clean, right? I think and stuff like that. So maybe the Synergies fit the bill, but it's a great. I'll link the video and let you watch it for those that are interested in the discussion. I just thought it was interesting that he was so giddy, and that's what he decided to talk about over his own amps. And who knows? But yes, Synergy, I think, is fantastic stuff from what I've experienced in the iterations in the past. Okay, let's go to a question I saw that was from, let's try an easy one. Southpaw 007, I believe you were the very first question on the show today. It says, happy Friday. Today is my 9th wedding anniversary. Congratulations. What should I buy my wife? What should I get your wife? What should you get? You know what? Everybody's going to say a guitar. It's a guitar channel. You can let your wife know this. You should buy her a guitar. Me personally, 26 years in marriage, buy an experience. That's always going to be the best play. You know, that is what I choose to do. I don't know. You know, I don't know how to, my wife and I have shared commingled finances, so to speak, right? We share our bank account, we share everything. So there's no like, I can't buy stuff for her and it not, she doesn't get like an email message saying, hey, you just use your credit card. And she'll, you know, and if it's a Guitar Center, she'd be like, oh, that's him. But if she's like, if it's something that she would want, she would be like, oh, he must be buying me a gift. So we don't really buy each other gifts. But we go on trips and we do experiences. You know, we'll go and do things. So that's my suggestion to you. I feel like that's an odd question for a guitar channel. I think it's deep down you wanted me to say buy her a left-handed guitar. So if you want to clip this, just say, yeah, Southpaw 007. Oh, you know what your wife would love for the 9th anniversary? A really nice left-handed guitar. Okay, then clip that and you can give her that version. Okay, this question, I clipped it and I can't figure out. Oh, here it is. Okay, so Bruce says, hey, Phil, I have an Eric Clapton signature Strat that I keep forgetting to unplug from the amp. Stop doing that. He says, and then often they have a dead battery. Yeah, of course. Is there a non-invasive way to turn off the active circuit besides the jack? You could put a switch in it. So essentially, let's pull this up. Yay. Okay, sorry about that. I just saw some good news. To get to where I'm going, I have to go past my email. To my email, I had some good news. Okay, let's pull, no, not that. Go back. And this, here it is. Sorry guys for the delayed thing. Okay, let me share with you guys. So I'm at Stu Mac, of course. I always say Stu Mac. I'm sure you're familiar with this, Bruce, but I just want you to understand it. This is what is in your Eric Clapton guitar. It's a stereo jack. Why it's important is what's different about it in this case, okay, is that they're using it for 2 grounds, okay? So, because you're obviously putting a mono cable in it. So what you would have is this piece right here where the shaft goes into, this is a ground. And this piece right here, where I'm pointing at, that's the tip, and so therefore that's the signal. And then here is another ground. This ground is most likely, well, it's attached to the terminal on the battery. So what you're doing is essentially completing the circuit of the battery. So think about you have a 9-volt battery with 2 wires, right? And just like a 9-volt battery sitting in the air, right? It's not connected to anything. It's not being used. When you unplug the cable, this cable right here I'm using for demonstration purposes, when you unplug this cable, the ground that was touching this cable is disengaged. The battery is off. So that's why when you put in the cable, you're now completing the circuit for the battery. Well, to me, it's pretty easy. You could just unplug the cable, but I get it. You're like, I forget. Okay, you forget. You could put a mini switch in the pick guard and run that wire. You'll see it coming off the battery to the switch, and then run from the switch to this output jack. And obviously flip the switch one way and it'll disconnect, right? It'll disengage and the battery will be off the terminal too. So you could have a switch if you so like. You could do it that way. You could also connect it if you want to be a little tricky under a push-pull pot so you don't even have to see the switch at all. And that way you don't drilling a hole in your pick guard. Why you would do that versus just unplug it, I don't know, but you have to unplug it. I'm going to give you the math. There's actually math on this. 9-volt battery on that circuit, you should get 300 hours. This is probably what's going to help you, Bruce, to think about this. So if you take a traditional 9-volt battery, none of those Duramax Extremes, I don't know any about that stuff, but just take a nice quality, Duracell Energizer battery, whatever, float your boat. That battery will run that circuit plugged in continuously for at least 300 hours, which is why your battery's going dead, because if you leave it plugged in for 24 hours, you just took 24 hours after 300 hours. So do the math on that, right? 24 hours times 10 days, right? You see how this works? So it should take the average guitar player, person not gigging, and I don't mean gigging like shows. I mean gigging like jam nights for 4 hours, 3 nights a week. It should take the average musician to kill a battery in a guitar, whether it's active pickups or the circuit, like the air copy. It should take a year. It should take you a year to kill that battery, if you're trying. And so, but imagine if you leave it plugged in for, let's say, and just how batteries work. So, it's not even really, whatever the math is for 300 hours, because exponentially, as you leave it plugged in, it's just going to start dropping towards the end. It just drops off fast, right? So I would say, just think in your head 10 days. If you left your guitar plugged in for 10 days with a brand new battery, you're going to find a dead battery when you pick up that guitar. So think of it every time you unplug it, you'll know now. So if you leave the room and you come back to the room and you go, oh, I left it plugged in for 5 hours, you'll know, like, oh, okay, that's 5 hours after that 300-hour battery life. That's the best way to think of it. Guitar players, this is kind of maybe funny for some of you guitar players. Right now, every bass player is like, yep, that's how it works, because all bass players are running active and we kind of know, right? It's why bass players are constantly unplugging their basses for those that play active circuits, because again, you're trying to get off that battery life. And that's why all bass players have backup batteries in their gig bag. And no guitar players ever seem to have batteries in their gig bags or their cases, but every bass player. So for you guitar players, if you ever have an active circuit and it goes dead, just go find a bass player. Trust me, they have some batteries. So let's see. Stupid Guitar says, I have a rechargeable 9-volt and I swap them out when I feel like it. Yeah, you can do rechargeables too. Same thing. But so rechargeables, again, not getting too techie nerdy here. Obviously their lifespan's not the same as a non-rechargeable battery, but I would imagine, let's just keep things safe, you would get 250, 280 hours, something like that, right? Because it's a percentage of that. But same thing. Yeah, so rechargeables are, on the long term, easier on the pocketbook, but that's just Bruce. That's all you need to know now. You can hook a switch up or you can unplug it, and just keep in mind that in 10 days your battery's dead if you so leave it plugged in. But leave it in. So I just want you to know, some guitar players believe, like, if you leave the guitar plugged in for overnight, the battery's gonna be dead. It should not be dead. If it's dead, it's because it was a weak battery and it was at the end of its life. Like I said, 24 hours would be a little less than 10% of the entire battery life. So leaving it unplugged in for a day won't kill it. But don't do it, because batteries are expensive. Even if you buy them at Costco, they're freaking expensive. Okay. This is a good question. This one came in through the email. This is from Lee. It says, I've heard I don't even know how I'm going to answer this question, so we'll see how it goes. It says, Lee says, I've heard you, he means me, use the phrase high-end guitars a couple times. I'm curious, at what price point does a guitar become high-end? ? I ask because, as someone who's only been playing for 6 months and whose most expensive guitar is a $499 PRS SECE standard satin, high-end for me is anything $1,000 and up. Well, first of all, Lee, great question. Second of all, 6 months of playing guitar and you already have an amazing guitar. That's a forever guitar, by the way. $499 PRS SECE, that's a forever guitar. What I mean by that is, literally, you could take that from zero to hero, from beginner to pro. So it's great, right? Because a lot of people here started with, and I know you said it's your nicest, so I assume you probably started on a cheaper one and move it up. But either way, I'm just letting you know it's a great guitar. Everyone's going to have an opinion about what high-end is, and in the normalcy of the world of just all products, watches, cars, wine, guitars, phones, you name it. Some of you are going to say high end, low end, and everybody's going to have a reference to that. When I'm speaking, generally, that means most of the time for me, most of the time, I'm not speaking of my personal opinion. I don't have like a personal opinion. I'm speaking more of a industry standard logic. So keep in mind, like when I say a thing goes out all the time, I'm not saying, like if I say a component goes out all the time, I'm not saying my component, that component goes out all the time. I've had my own personal friends get confused who watch the podcast because they'll be like, yeah, I know you're saying you're having trouble with this one component. And I'm like, no, I've never had that problem, not once in my life, but I've fixed it so many times for other people. I know it's a standard problem. So when I say high end or low end, I'm usually referencing what the industry is moving at that time I say it, and depending on when I said it is what's going on right now. The way you want to look at guitars, and I've done this before, but it's been years pre-COVID. It's a pyramid, like anything. It's a pyramid. Okay, so essentially at the very bottom, we're going to say $99 guitars. Okay, just keep it there, right? So that's the most amount of guitars, right? And then $200 guitars, $300 guitars. And let's say the pyramid peaks out, logically speaking, now at about $10,000. I know guitars go 20. I know they go 15. But you got to understand, once we're in the $10,000 bracket, we're talking hundreds of guitars sold, maybe thousands, but not tens of thousands. So at $100 guitars, we're talking millions of guitars being sold, right? At $10,000 guitars, we're talking thousands and not tens of thousands. So to me, high end is somewhere in where you break over what an average customer is spending in the market. And so right now, because of inflation in the market, even being softer right now, I would say guitar players are spending up to $1,000 before it starts tapering. The pyramid gets really pointy really fast towards the end, right? So let's say, I don't want to say it's a halfway mark or anything, but understand what I'm saying. $1,000 and up is not so much that it's high end or expensive, but it's what the industry would expect. So if you were stocking a music store, if you were stocking Sweetwater, I'm sure they would look at that and go, okay, we want definitely tens of thousands of guitars in stock in sub $1,000 category. Above 1,000, then it starts changing. So I would consider anything above $1,000 right now high end. And like I said, it's not a personal thing. It's not like somebody watching this right now going, no, I mean, I would kill to have a $500 guitar. How can he say $1,000? We're just talking about the volume of purchasing, okay? It's just the volume of purchasing. So the volume of purchasing, I would say that $1,000 is over where the pyramid, if we were looking at it by layer, it starts getting smaller really fast after that. And that just tells you. And then the numbers with guitar manufacturing makes sense, because if we were to start talking about companies like Sir, the volume of guitars they're making far, far less than Fender, far less than Squier, right? So, I mean, we're talking about volume. So that's where I come up with those. That's where I'm usually shooting from that hip, so to speak. It's actually to be sadly, just to be sad about it, I haven't looked. I usually look, because you can look at your year-end stats for the industry. I haven't looked in about a year and a half, 2 years. So I don't know where it's at realistically right now. So whatever I've been shooting off of is probably what I saw in 2022. So, which is probably skewed now from now. So, but let me know in the comments. Is that what every YouTuber says? Let me know what you think in the comments. Yeah, you just go, let me know what you think high-end guitars are. I mean, we can wax philosophical about what is expensive to everyone, but I'm just going off industry standards, and I think that's pretty close to industry standards. So, and by the way, if you want to know this for sure, Sweetwater is a perfect example. Go to Sweetwater, look at guitars by price point, and see how many they have in stock of each price point. Trust me, Sweetwater is a store. It's a company that wants product ready to go for the customer when they're ready to pull the trigger. And notice that the inventory 10 in stock when it's $3,000, but when it's $300, there's 100 in stock. 1,000 in stock. So, YouTuber wants to know, hey, how does the Eastman compare to the Heritage? Did you ever do a formal review of the Heritage? I've not done the formal review of the Heritage. I will be doing that. I did compare the Eastman to the Eastman to the Heritage to my Gibson R9. And you remember a few podcasts ago, I mentioned that my friends came over and tried all my guitars. That the Eastman was here, and we went through all the guitars. And the answer that everybody gave was what you would predict. The Gibson has the Gibson mojo, right? Whatever that is. No one said like, oh, it sounded the best. It just had the mojo. The Heritage had a really nice tone. I think the pickups on that sound really good. But that was what I didn't mention was the Eastman in that video, because obviously it hadn't. I wanted to wait till the video came out. But what it came through was we specifically compared the Heritage, Eastman, and Gibson, and sadly enough, before we got to a conclusion of which one was the best, I pulled out the Nags single cut, and then absolutely everybody was hands down the Nags won. Absolutely. So there was no, unfortunately, I did not get a sense of the room of which one was the best of the three after it was the Nags. So it was the Nags. But I will be doing a comparison video, so that's coming. Okay. Okay, let's go to another question. This one is from Tasso says, was watching your review of the Paul Reed Smith DGT SE. You mentioned you like steel saddles and bridge block better than brass. Why? I don't know. Brighter? I was thinking of picking up a 2408 SE version, then getting a Graphtec saddles. Okay. And putting brass block and better tuners. Should I? When it comes to Graphtec saddles, I've installed so many over the years. Mostly the reason you install Graphtec saddles on a bridge, and if you want to be happy, it's for string saving and string stability, tuning stability. The graphite is essentially better lubricated than the brass or the steel. In other words, the strings can glide through them very nicely. It helps with tuning stability. Because it helps with tuning stability, in other words, really reducing friction, it's also good at reducing string breakage. That is why I would say you would want to use Graphtec saddles. If you want it because you think the guitar is gonna be brighter or darker, I've experienced the most interesting effect with Graphtec saddles with guitars. On one guitar, it made it bright. On one guitar, it makes it sound darker. And on another guitar, it made it bright. On another guitar, darker. It was almost unpredictable what it did to a guitar. So definitely go for the, like I said, for the tuning stability and string breakage, and you'll be happy. If you're going for tone, I don't know what to predict for you. The other part, second half, was I always thought the brass would have better tone and sustain. It can, sure, of course, like they use in core models. What do you think? It's possible. It's possible. Again, there's the quality of things is not what I'm testifying to. I'm not saying that steel is better quality than brass. I'm saying I'm preferring it. It's you can insert, I don't have a great analogy right now. I'm trying to think of something like, two identical hot sauces or two different hot sauce brands. It's not one's better. Maybe I say, hey, I like this. Perfect example. I like Cholula over Tabasco. And that's true. and somebody may say the opposite. Does it make sense? And my reasoning for liking Cholula over Tabasco was there's three things I don't eat anymore because of the Army. I don't eat bologna sandwiches. I don't eat Tabasco, and I don't eat chili mac. I don't hate it. I loved eating it, but I had enough of it. Okay. So that's why. And Cholula to me was like, this doesn't remind me of eating cafeteria food. And that's essentially my experience with, and probably to be honest with you, those three things was bologna sandwiches, chili mac, and Tabasco is something that I ate a lot of in the Army. And so I associate it with cafeteria food, so that doesn't mean good or bad. So same thing with this. I prefer the steel saddles and block, but there's no real quality thing. So if your instinct is that you might like brass better, go with it. It's not like I'm not disparaging one or the other. So also, I'd like to point out that I don't know if Tabasco goes bad. I don't think it does, but I kind of feel like I ate a lot of bad Tabasco. like where it's separated and it's almost clear. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Sometimes there's military people watching. Does anyone remember like MREs with the Tabasco, but it was almost clear because it was so expired? So maybe that's what did it too. So I don't know. I don't know what it is. Maybe that's what it is. Okay. Okay. I need to stay back on task. All right. Let's do a giveaway. Let's have fun. I want to have some fun. It gives me a little break. Let me recharge for a second and do a giveaway. So if it's first time watching since we started this, we're giving away stuff to the end of the year. It's called the Show Us Your KYG contest. You can have KYG merch that helps the channel. Buy some merch. Take a picture, send it to us. Links down below, or you can make your own merch. We're doing both, so it's great. You'll see that today. And if you win currently right now, if we're picking a winner, you're going to win a $200 Nichols 1966 pedal from Dane Electro. They gave us 24 of these to give away, but of course we have other prices and other shenanigans coming as well and doing stuff. But today we're giving away the pedals. I'll be using this for Guitar of the Week, so you'll be able to hear it again as always. This first one is a funny one I want to share because it took me back. It took me back in a good and bad way. So let's see how diehard. Some of you guys have been hanging around on the channel for a long time. You're going to know in a second this happened. This is about 2016-17 when this happened. So let's see. The first winner is Robert. Robert, you are winning a Nichols 1966 Dane Electro pedal. Why are you winning this pedal? Because you sent this shirt, which is in the best category of most unique KYG shirt ever made. So if you're looking at this and you have no idea what this is, then I won't say you're not a super diehard viewer of the channel, but let's just say it was an interesting time. This was a shirt we made. I actually wore this exact shirt. Well, I wore a gray version to the Summer NAMM of 2017, I believe. And yes, it does say Taylor Swift. Yes, it is an Eddie Van Halen logo, and it does say Guitar Goddess. This is where a lot of the viewers started noticing my reverse trolling. I did a video that went viral called "Is Taylor Swift the Next Eddie Van Halen?" So it's not only viral. It was Guitar World did an entire article about it. Tyler Larson did a video. Become the Night did a video. Everyone did a video about it reacting. A lot of people reacted to the title, not the substance of the video. You gotta understand, in that time frame, I had no, like anybody, I was doing YouTube, but I had no idea, I don't know. Does somebody, I think I'm still talking to like the people that I know, right? I don't know that there's a world out there that's just gonna make the video go until you get thousands of views. My topic was that there was more female guitar players in our lesson academy at that time than male players. And that was the first time we'd ever seen that, ever. Like ever. And so I said, wow, is it because Taylor Swift? Now keep in mind, I didn't say this then, but I could have said, look, 4 years, if I made that video 4 years earlier, I could have said it was Hannah Montana. I was just looking at it as like, who's driving all these young girls to guitar lessons? Because it was epic. In fact, so in the article that was the death of the electric guitar, they interviewed me in that article. And in that interview, I said this same thing, that there's more female guitar players right now than male guitar players in the youth in the youth base. And the reporter actually called School of Rock, talked to the president of School of Rock, asked them how many female guitar players do they have to male. They didn't even know. They looked and they go 60%. And he says, is that high? And he goes, yeah, it used to be like 4. And I'm like, yeah, my percentage was the same thing. We would have a couple little girls come into lessons for piano, maybe, right? And then it was all boys, especially in the youth, like I said. And then all of a sudden it was just dominated by girls. And so I was asking the question at the time, like, is she, Eddie Van Halen literally boosted, everybody got crazy to play guitar when Eddie Van Halen came out. And it's not, obviously he's amazing, but it wasn't because he was, just a great music. It was, he was iconic and just started driving this idea. And so I asked this question, and of course the internet had thought, how dare Phil McKnight equate. I had so many, I almost had death threats. People were like, how could you compare Taylor Swift to Eddie Van Halen? I'm like, I'm not. I'm asking if she's doing this as a middle-aged man. I have no idea what little girls are, what's inspiring little girls to play music. So I just thought, I just like the topic. So I discussed the topic. I guess this is before I was really doing podcasts really. And so it was like on a video content. But anyways, when everybody was like reacting to how could he say this, I had to, Robert, as you know, Robert did it too. And Robert, so you know, Robert has a pink one. If you have a pink one, it means we donated the money to breast cancer. So we stopped doing that. I really hate that we stopped doing that, but every time we did it, it was always October, well, mostly in October, we would do shirts in pink and donate the money to breast cancer. The hate emails were just too much for us. You know, a lot of people, you know, and anytime you do any charity, people love to tell you about how evil the charity is. And I'm like, you know, but anyway, so Robert, you want a pedal? That's an OG shirt. I have no idea how many we made. If I was going to guess, 10 sounds high. Okay, 10 shirts, and I'm rounding up, man. I have no idea. We made the shirt for me. I don't even remember announcing it, or if I announced it. Obviously, I did because you have one, and I think I know when we go through all the Know Your Gear photos, there is a little girl that has one, and so she had one. It was a great time. So you know, no bitter memories. No, in fact, I loved it. I like I said, I wore mine proudly. I should have put my picture up today of me at the NAMM show walking around with it. And the glares I got from guitar players like, what the hell is this guy wearing? And I just loved it. I just loved it. So yeah, that was a good time. So it was a good time. And, you know, and it let me know at that time that we should have guitar conversations. That's what I love. That's what this show is. It's just us talking. You know, you guys post, I react, we talk. It's great, you know. Yeah, I'm not old on vintage says, I feel like that shirt could be a top seller these days. You know, this is a perfect example of innocence. You know, here's the innocence. Me at that time making a shirt like that, I was like, hey, let's make a shirt, give some money to charity, have some fun. Now I know I'd get sued. Not really sued. For the lawyers, they always get upset when I say sued. They're like, you know, you'll get a cease and desist. There won't. Yes, I would get a cease and desist. I don't know who from though. Here's the $1 million question. If I made a shirt like that, who do you think hits me faster? Eddie Van Halen's camp or the Taylor Swift camp? There's a video. Who hates Phil McKnight more, Taylor Swift or no? I'm just kidding. Taylor Swift, Eddie Van Halen. Who's gonna shut that shirt down now? So there's no way we could ever make that shirt again, at all. Not even close. So if you have one, you have a relic of time, and I mean, I'm sure you could make one, but yeah, there's no way we would ever make one because again, you know, at the time, you know, the size of the channel, not knowing the world that we know now, but. Best answer is 251 who says Gibson lawyers. We'll get to it first. You know what's funny? Yeah, for some reason it would be Gibson lawyers based on everything we know. All right, that was a little fun. We have another winner coming up in a little bit. We'll do that one too. Let's go and get to the next guitar subject. Let's see. This one is from Alan. He says, hey, I watched your YouTube videos for a couple years. I appreciate your candor, skills, and knowledge. I'm a disabled veteran. Thank you for your service, especially, you know, being disabled. That's man, it's one of the biggest things, you know, that we can say thank you for is doing something so honorable for us. He says he plays guitar and he has other instruments. He's been playing since the 4th grade, which is 1960 plus, so 1960. He says, I want to do mods, minor repairs, fret finishing, and setups for myself, and then offer it to others. I've done quite a few during my early days, but no formal training as a luthier. Lots of observing and picking. I think he's saying and picking up tips. Oh, picking up tips. It just ran together. I'm sorry. It says, however, I am an IT systems engineer, retired, with electrical and electronics experience. Can you recommend a startup tool set, StewMac, Workbench, etc.? I don't recommend any of the kits. This is where StewMac and I have, you know, they've reached out. We talked, and they're like, hey, how about a kit? And everything, the problem with kits, let me tell you the problem with kits. It's not isolated to a StewMac thing, so it's not a thing about StewMac. It's a thing about every company that ever tries to do a kit. To make the math work, they always figure out a way to screw us a little bit. What I mean by that is like, it comes with like it's like a $300 kit, and it comes with like a $30 tool, a $50 tool, an 8-cent thing, some tape, right? You're like, there's always some stuff in there that is cheaper that's just put in there to pad it up because, they need to blow you away with the volume. And then there's always something in there you don't need at all. I'm like, and so that's what happened with me and a lot of tool companies is they'll say, hey, look at these tools. And I go through and I go, I would never use that one tool. And they go, yeah, but still a good deal. I'm like, not really. $24, that one tool, you'll never use it. It's not a good value. So unfortunately, you have to do it yourself. The best way to do it yourself is exactly the way you do anything else, right? If you're gonna change a toilet out, if you're going to fix a fence, right? You just look at about what tools you need. It's not tricky. You don't need to be experienced for that. Okay. You seem like a very educated, smart guy. So I'm gonna say that the way you approach it is, if you're trying to do a buy it all at once kind of savings thing, don't worry about that. It's not going to be much more expensive to piecemeal it out because here's why. When you piecemeal it out, you can hit multiple places. First of all, not every tool at StewMac is a great tool, okay? There's a lot of stuff at StewMac that I think is some of the best tools on the market. Definitely going to save you time, save you money, save you headache. Go for it. There's some stuff that's just repurposed from Harbor Freight. There's a tool that I have that StewMac sent me, and I literally have that tool already from Harbor Freight. They look exactly the same. Except for Harbor Freight was $7.99. I think StewMac was $29.99. So there's going to be a little bit of that and again, I feel like I'm picking on StewMac. As you guys know, I love StewMac more than anything. So but I'm also realistic. I don't see I don't have the they could do no wrong kind of attitude. So in this case, I have tools from Harbor Freight. I have tools from Home Depot. I have tools from StewMac. I have tools from Music Nomad. Essentially, I can tell you this. Tools that, here's the easiest way to think of it. The tools that you think you'll use the most, buy the best. Okay, not the most expensive, just the best. So obviously, screwdrivers, you're gonna be using them a lot. Don't buy cheap ones, right? Buy good ones that are gonna last. They're gonna last, buy once, cry once. There are going to be tools that you don't use very often that you can get a little cheap on. I really prefer buying a nice soldering iron. A nice soldering iron will pay dividends for sure. Weller is my absolute favorite. I've talked about this for years. The StewMac guy sent me theirs. I talked about them. We gave some away. They're really cool, but I still come back to Weller. I just trust Weller. They sell me parts. The Wellers last forever, and then if something breaks, you can actually get a part, and that's something really cool. You can buy Wellers also from Amazon, and that's even really cool because the return policy is really cool if you have any issues. So you can take care of it. But I would just pick a job. First of all, don't think of it like you need all the tools. You don't. The way you want to do it is, I would say, think of it like the first most important thing you can do is setups. So you can watch any one of my guitar review videos and see exactly what you need. You need a fret rocker. You need you see most of the stuff I'm doing, I'm not even using tools. Like I have a straight edge. I have a notch straight edge. That's a luxury tool, right? That's just like, I've been doing this a long time. Might as well have the nicest tool to do that. But I can check up a neck straight with my finger and my thumb. And just check it. It is just as accurate as a straight edge, not straight edge. The not straight edge is literally just because at some point, this happens to mechanics, it happens to everybody. You get all the tools you need, but you still want to buy tools, so you just keep buying tools that are just nicer and nicer. So there's a little bit of that. Definitely want to get some radius gauges. Those are really nice as well. You definitely want to get a nice tuner. That's highly important as a decent quality tuner. Some Allen wrench sets, but Allen wrench sets, and you can get those at Harbor Freight. The ones that StewMac sell are good, but I don't know what's different about them in Harbor Freight. It's not like you're gonna, guitars are not high torque items. Okay, if you're stripping things out on a guitar, either you bought something so cheap that even I'm confused by it, or you're just over torquing the crap out of everything, because everything is not that difficult when it comes to that stuff. So that's where I would start. I have a bunch of videos where you could go through my catalog and it says what tools I suggest for different projects or starting out. But I don't even think you need that. I just do that just to keep it easy, but really just go with, you want to do a basic job like a setup. You want a mat. I did a video where I went to the dollar store and got everything you need to do a setup at a dollar store, and I did a full setup on that video. That's why I do those videos. It's because nice tools are great. They're good investments. I really believe that. If you buy good quality tools, I don't think you've done anything wrong by any means. But need, I mean, you only need stuff if like I said, if you're going to wear it out. I will tell you this. If I can suggest one thing that you buy at StewMac, for me personally, one thing, files. Their files are far superior than anything I've found at like Amazon or anyone else. And for the most part. So, okay. Chris says, are snarks adequate? They are. They're good enough. Clip-on tuners are good enough. Here's what I will tell you, Chris. For you, yes. If you're going to start doing guitars for other people, you want to get a strobe tuner. The reality is that you will do, if you use a snark tuner. If I set up your guitar today with a snark tuner, I think I could get it pretty dialed in and you'd be pretty good. But I know certain guitar players that their ears are just so dialed in, their playing is so legit. And I don't know you, Chris, maybe you're that guy too, but they're going to come and they're going to go, oh, it's off. And you don't want to question that. You don't want to question that. So I recommend any kind of strobe tuner, even the knockoff ones, like Pictronics has one. For me, the Peterson foot pedal, that's $99, is more than adequate. And if you get that, to me, it's a life-changing when you go to strobe tuners, especially now because they're a lot easier than when they were huge. I used to have the big one. It was just horrible. It took up so much room, cost so much money. I don't even know what I paid back then. I want to say I would have paid $600, $700, $800 back then for a tuner. Isn't that crazy? So, Lee says Music Nomad files are great too. Some of the Music Nomad files are good. I did a review of their Z file, S file. It's got a weird name. That video, I like that file a lot. I mentioned some of the shortcomings of that file, which is I think, it's not as nice quality as the StewMac file, but the feature was so good. That's why I recommend it. I have the other string saddles files. I have all the Music Nomad files. They're all good, but I couldn't argue in some cases that they're better than some of the StewMac stuff just for the quality of it. But very good. I need to do a comparison of the all the files. It's tough because part of my allegiance to the StewMac files is my years and years and years and years and years of working with them, and Music Nomad's files are just not that old. So it's a little hard for me to go, yes, they're as good as the thing I've been trusting for 2 decades versus the thing I've tried for 7 months. It's a little tricky, especially now that I don't even do anything close to the amount of repairs I used to do because I do the YouTube gig and it literally takes up so much time. So I hope that gives you a good start and get you going there. And thank you, Alan. Okay. Chris has been throwing me questions. Let's see. What do you think about? Jason says, hey, Phil, what do you think about Texas Toast guitars? Do you feel they're great quality? What have you heard? I have 2 Texas Toast guitars here at the studio. One is behind my big head. So I'm pointing at it right there. I did that as a Guitar Week. I have a deep dive of that guitar coming. Essentially, I have 2 versions of this guitar. I have this version and a lower priced version. And so I guess we'll wait to see. A horrible way to answer your question. Wait and see. The deep dive will kind of talk about it. It gives you personally, I like the guitars. So that's the easy part. But that's just in a personal opinion. But comparatively speaking, I'll go through all the stuff and what was good and what was bad. Those videos I'm literally editing everything. Everything's pretty much been filmed. I'm just editing. I'm doing a lot of editing to get stuff, dialed in. Okay, let's do Guitar of the Week, right?
Now it's time for Guitar of the Week.
Okay, so Guitar of the Week is I'm trying to keep them short because sometimes they get a little long, but this will be short. Guitar of the Week is not like a formal review. It's just something I have in my collection or something I use, and why do I use it, and why did I get it, and maybe has an interesting story. This one is, I think I'm seeing a trend on YouTube, as you do, right? There's always trends like, hey, this Amazon guitar will blow you away. We all do it. We're all guilty. I'd like to point out, I'm not pigeonholing any YouTubers or anything, but there's a trend lately that I find interesting, and I think it's like a lot of trends, it's trying to bank on emotions. So I thought of a guitar today that would really let me talk about that. So I'm gonna grab it because I didn't grab it. Okay, so what is this? This is a 2006. I made a little dust face on it because it's so dusty. This guitar is dusty. It is. I purposely did not take any of the dust off. Look how gross that is. Because I wanted you to see that it's dusty. Okay, so what is this? This is a 2006 Gibson SG with dual P90s. Look at that. I bought this used. It has a ding right there on the neck. It's very hard to see, but you can see ding right there. It's not super deep. Doesn't seem to affect the way it plays. The neck is not a 60s neck, not a 50s neck. It's really like the most perfect neck. Like if I could get a Gibson Les Paul with this exact neck, it would be fantastic. It has P90s. When I bought it used, I didn't know this, but it has a Lawler in the bridge, and then this is a stock P90. I got this guitar for $700-ish. I want to say 2019 or 18. Definitely was before COVID. So, for COVID. And I say I paid $700-ish for it, but I didn't. I traded. So, this is why I thought this would be interesting. Yes, so Dougal Dog, this is an SG special. So, everything else, like stock Kluson style tuning keys. And like I said, I thought it was stock when I bought it, but then when I forgot what I had to get in there for, but I had to get in there to check something, and I was like, oh, Lawler. So pretty cool. And I always say this with the Gibson stuff, I don't know if these knobs were original even when I got it, because I buy these knobs and stick it on every Gibson. So I like the top hats. Okay, so why is this interesting? Well, it's because really, here's the funny part. Let me go to it, and you probably understand. What I was really wanted was, oops. As I'm quiet. Okay, so here's the guitar I want. I'm pulling one up on Reverb right now as we speak. Okay, and this is why I think maybe this was a good guitar of the week. So here's a Gibson SG Junior, 2019, right here, $1,399. This is the guitar I wanted. I have so many friends. Larry Mitchell's one that have one of these guitars, and they all say the same thing. It's phenomenal. It's amazing. It's life-changing. It's so, even though it's so inexpensive. And I was looking for one, and same thing. You could $1,200, $1,300, $1,800. Maybe if you're lucky, you find one for $1,000, especially in 2019. You can find one for $1,000. Looking for this guitar, and then one day in a music store, I saw the one I have here. And I thought, well, obviously the P90 is not in the sweet spot. It's not the same bridge. It's not a one-piece wraparound bridge. But, let's plug it in and play it. I was plugging it and playing it, and I loved it. And this guitar, which is funny because it's, so like I said, if I got it in 2019, it's been 4 years or 5 years. It might even be 6 years old now. Is what I call a placeholder guitar. A term that I think is very common with me and my friends. Refer to this term all the time, placeholder guitars. I have lots of placeholder guitars. The reason why I said I was talking about, the trends on YouTube, there's a lot of trends right now, okay, because everybody bought so many guitars during COVID, and everybody's trying to purge a little bit of the guitars and thin down the herds, so to speak. The term, I can't even see a listing of a guitar without somebody saying, thinning down the herd. So thin and down the herd. And a lot of videos lately I've watched saying, oh, I don't need so many guitars, and oh, you don't need so many guitars, and you need less stuff, and you need less stuff. And it's almost like this, like, oh, if you have a lot of guitars, you're hoarding stuff. And I'm like, what's funny about that is I'm not disagreeing with that statement entirely. What I am disagreeing with is that not everything is, I don't know how all these guys, screw it, I don't know how these assholes have all this cash. Like, I work hard. I've had a great job for a long time, but I have family. I have bills. I have $3,000 plumbing problems. When you have fixed stuff. New tires with a military discount recently. New tires, $1,300, right? 12 something, but it's close enough. So it's hard to just throttle out, for a dream guitar. So a lot of players that I've known, and again, I don't care what your financial status is and where you are in your journey, whether you've been doing this for 6 months or 6 years or 60 years, trading up is how musicians get guitars. It's how I sold guitars when I stored up musicians. They were trading all the time, trading up, trading out. I've done it for many years, buying something they don't love as much to get an experience of it. Like I said, this is close. It's close to the SG Junior to me. It's got the P90. It's got the vibe. It's got the neck, right? It's not the same. And I know it's not, but it was $700 in a store that I could do trades with. And what I traded off was $700 worth of stuff I didn't even care about. So this to me was like, I don't want to say free. It's not close to that, but it was, it was in exchange for stuff I didn't care about. And then my logic is this guitar is now a placeholder. It means one day I will get an SG Junior. I'm just not in a hurry. I'm not in a hurry to be frivolous with my money or my time. I don't want to just order an SG Online Junior and pay top dollar for it. One day, like this guitar, like a lot of my guitars, I'll happen buy one, an opportunity for the guitar I want, and I will get it. Okay. And then I will sell this. And interestingly enough, I know the market's soft right now. I have no idea what this is worth, but I would imagine people will give me $700 for it, especially with the Lawler in it, right? I don't know. It's cool. So my point is that it's not about like you have to have every guitar. It's that sometimes you do buy up a bunch of guitars because the opportunities are right. Financially, it's a good trade. I do a lot of trading. Trading is it's because trading is in a hobby, because you're, like I said, a hobbyist is an informed consumer. That is what I like about having a hobby. I am constantly, like a lot of people, in situations where I have to buy stuff. I have no idea what the hell it is, and I'm relying on this person telling me what value it has. Like, in other words, if it's a good deal or not a good deal, oh, I need this fixed on my fence, and they give me a quote. I got to get 3 quotes because I got to figure out what it's worth. I don't need 3 quotes on a guitar. I know what guitars are worth. I know what pedals are worth. Like a lot of you, I'm an informed consumer because I'm a hobbyist. This is what I love to look at. I like to look at the prices. I like to look at stuff because I have an end goal in mind, and the end goal adjusts all the time. And what I mean by that is maybe in my head one day I pictured all my guitars would be hot pink, shredder guitars. Well, that isn't in my head anymore. I'm not that player anymore. So I've moved, I've changed. And so trading and adjusting and selling and buying is how you do it. I'm not selling and buying to make a living or make money. I'm selling and buying to acquire the things that I want, that I truly want. So like I said, sometimes you buy a guitar, it's called a placeholder guitar. You're like, this is good. It works for me. Sometimes it works in your favor. For instance, if you recently watched videos over the last 6 months, I bought a very expensive Rickenbacker that was very nice, but I didn't love it. So I sold it, and now I have a Dane Electro, which was a fraction of the price. But I know that, and a lot of you are like this too, I'm sure, if I got the Dane Electro, I would have played it thinking, wow, I love this. And if I love this, the Rickenbacker would be much better. So having the experience of the Rickenbacker gives me a kind of sense of I don't know what am I trying to say? A sense of no doubt. I don't have any doubt. I can play that Rickenbacker. I can play that Dane Electro 12-string behind me and know that it's a fantastic guitar. So my knees hurt says, I don't sell anything ever. That's great. My friend Ralph, as we know, doesn't sell anything either. That's just how he does stuff too. But But it's, again, every decision, every choice is each person's. So like I said, I don't look at it as like I don't need a lot of guitars. I don't look at it like having too many guitars that makes me play less. I don't play a lot of the guitars. This one has a lot of dust on it. That's why I wanted to show you the dust. I didn't want to tell you like, oh, I play this every day. I don't. I probably haven't seen it in 4 months because it's been in the closet, because I don't need to sell it. And I know that it scratches the itch of having the SG Junior. And one day I'll probably have an SG Junior. So let's play this guitar, because that's part of this too. Switch camera views here. There you go. Let's back up. I have a different camera today because just how I had to set up the show. I'm running the Fender Princeton. I'm running it through a Creamback Selection 12-inch speaker, and I have my enhancifier pedal plugged in because I like it. Okay. There we go. Okay, so I'm on the neck pickup. I'm going to just play the neck pickup for a second. And so the neck pickup is great. The bridge pickup is bright. And of course, it's a Gibson, so it's a little out of tune. You know what's funny is, here it is. It was a G. Okay. So let's go to the bridge, and what I want to do now is hit the delay. I'm going to hit the Nichols 1966 overdrive fuzz. I have it more on the overdrive sound, and we'll play that for a second. And of course, I love the neck pickup on this more. So, which is interesting to me because you think you'd like the Lawler, but that neck position. So, let's do this. All right. What's interesting, let's do this real quick. Is that it's not a Gibson SG Junior. I thought about, that's probably maybe why I was looking at the pickguard. I thought about maybe cutting a new pickguard and putting the pickup in the sweet spot position, seeing if that helped. But I just think that, one day, like a lot of the guitars I have, the right guitar will come along and it'll replace this one, or maybe this is perfect the way it is and it works great. But like I said, I keep seeing people talking about how, you only need one guitar or two guitars, and that's great. I know some players that are like that. But the reality is, I always find it's people who are at the end of their journey telling you shouldn't have your journey. You're like, I've tried every pedal and you don't need to. Well, I think you tried every pedal because you wanted to. I tried so many things because I'm curious. Where I am today, not only as a guitar player, but as as the type of guitars that I like today, is not where I started, and it's not where I was 10 years ago. This channel would be massively different. If I was 10 years into my journey 10 years ago, it would have been a much different guitar channel, because of the fact that I just like I said, I've experienced different things and changed my mind about things. So I just thought it was interesting. I just want you to know whether you now you know what a placeholder guitar is. Now you know, I think, and this guitar is a perfect example of guitars that sometimes, which is why I want to do Guitar of the Week. Sometimes you see guitars behind me they're here for the show, and I use them on the regular. And then guitars, sometimes I sell them because, I'm not using them. And some guitars, I'm like, you know what? They can just go in the closet for a little while. They'll have a reason to come out. So, it's funny. I was wondering today when I grabbed it, I'm like, I wonder if I'll pull it out and go, wow, it's amazing. It's good. It's a good guitar. I really like it. I like my other SG better. So, and I still want a Gibson SG Junior. I still do. So on that, since we're talking about gear and what you may need or not need, let's do the second winner of the week. Okay, ready? Second winner of the week. That's a dramatic pause. Second winner of the week is Chad. Chad won the second winner of the week. This is not CGI. This is real Legos. He made, zoom it out a little bit. See if that helps. He made this KYG sign. By the way, Chad, my wife, when she saw this, was like, where's the money? And I'm like, I don't know. She's like, well, you have money. And I go, well, I don't know. I think this is like inspired by. I don't think it's factual. She's like, what? I'd like to know where that money is. I'm like, the money's in these guitars. The money's gone. Stop bringing up the money. It's not here anymore. Anyways, Chad, let's go back to Chad. Chad made this Lego recreation of my podcast bunker room, whatever you want to call it. Well, Chad, what did you win? Well, you won a Nichols 1966 pedal. But what category did you win for? Chad won the best category of spending $201 in Legos to win a $200 pedal. That's right, Chad. This is bad math. I know how expensive Legos are. My daughter and wife are into Legos. And before that, those money bills, you probably need those because Lego is expensive. So good job. You won a pedal. You only had to spend more money in Legos to get the pedal. But, that math kind of maths a little bit. Anyways, great. That was fantastic, Chad. We love it. Obviously, like I said, you knew you had to know you're gonna win. One, you did a great job, and two, my wife and daughter are totally into Legos, so they were like, "Oh, this is cool." So this is the new Lego Know Your Gear Lego set, available for $201. Yeah. All right. So, if you guys could, the winners, just email us at askknowyourgear. If we don't hear from you, we'll reach out to you. By the way, it's just been helping us that you guys have been reaching out to us, because our goal is to get the pedals out usually by the midweek of, so next Wednesday. And it's just a lot easier than, when we email, sometimes we get kickbacks, emails kick back to us, or sometimes you guys don't respond. And, it's a lot easier if you reach out to us, but either way, and that's why we timestamp this so you can see if you won each week. So, Wanna Beetle says pedals and Legos have one thing in common: you step on both of them. If you step on both, it hurts. Absolutely. Although I think Lego is more so than pedals, but not by a lot, maybe a little bit. Okay, let's keep going. Like it's a professional show about guitars. It's not. So not. Okay, let's get on this. Okay, so we have Clan of House Cats says, are you interested in the Jake E. Lee Friedman 20 watt? I love the JJ Jr. and I am wondering if my amp is already enough sound compared to the Jake E. Lee. So am I interested in the Jake E. Lee? No, I'm not. I've already done all the Friedman amps, so speak. The JJ Jr. was probably, I said this before, probably where I should have stopped. The JJ Jr. is the Runt. Same clean channel as the Runt. It is the Runt. It just has more gain than the Runt. But if you kick it back the switch, you get basic, I think, what the Runt has as gain. So it's just the Runt with more gain. That's all. And I think it looks cooler looking. But more importantly, it's just the Runt. The Jake Ely 20 watt, my guess is the clean channel is, again, the same as the Runt. They seem to be using that as a platform. And then maybe more gain. I don't know if it's more gain than the JJ Jr. or less. And it might be voiced differently. I don't know. But for me personally, you asked me. So me personally, I should have. I got the JJ Junior. I should have stayed with that, but instead I upgraded or whatever. I got the Freeman, the small box 50, and I love the small box 50. I'm not gonna go back. So because here's why: the small box 50 for the price is so not worth it for me compared to the JJ Junior. I mean, deal wise, right? It's just the JJ Junior is a lot of amp for the money, but the small box, what I love about it is the clean channel. I think is superior because it has EQing. I can EQ the clean channel and get it just dialed in a little better than I like. If I went back in time and I didn't buy a small box and I kept the JJ, I would never want for the small box. But I'm not selling the small box at a loss to go back to a JJ Junior. It's not going to make sense for me. But in your case, I don't know if you're a huge Jake Ely fan, it's a great amp. But I also think you get to have the JJ Junior and get a pedal and shove that in front of it. And, I would suggest that. That's what I would suggest. But that's just my observation. Okay. Alex says, hey, Will Guitar Center and other shops give out the used cardboard boxes. What? Give out the used cardboard boxes. Their new guitars came in, if I ask nicely, buying. My experience with Guitar Center, I don't know about other shops. We used to give them away in our shop when we had them. Most shops need them because they're shipping stuff online. Guitar Center probably needs them now because they're shipping stuff online. It used to be, I think, a policy Guitar Center, they would not give out the boxes. They shredded them. They destroyed them and put them in the back. But I think now they use them for shipping. So you can buy a guitar box at most, like mailboxes, etc., UPS store. But I will tell you, you can buy boxes on Amazon if you need to get them. I like you, I try to use the box I have, especially when I'm doing giveaways with guitars and stuff. But if we need to buy a box, they're about $15. You can find a box for $15. That's not cheap, but it's, in today's market, it's what it is. But you can always ask. But my guess is, no, they're going to say no. Cappy says, hey, new amp day, just got an Ampeg Micro VR. That's a cool amp, man, because if you guys know what that is, it looks like the stack, but it's small. I love this thing, even with guitar. Do you have any recommendations for online bass courses? I don't. I don't know where you go for online bass courses. I have no idea. So if anyone has tried any with great success, please list them in the comment section below. Sir Toggle? That's 2 L's. I don't even know how to, I'm just, either this, I don't know how to read this. Just go Sir. Sir says, new guitar day. I found a good deal on a PRS S2 Vernon Reed signature. That's a great guitar. They don't make it anymore. And simply couldn't resist. Not in my hands yet, but I cannot wait. Here's a token of my appreciation for this show and your brilliant videos. Thank you so much. The Vernon Reed was a guitar that I was trying to get my hands on through PRS, through my dealings at PRS. And they just didn't have one. And then they stopped making it. So you guys know, if you don't know, the Vernon Reed PRS is a Vela with a soft V-neck and a Floyd Rose. I wasn't really interested in the soft V-neck or the Floyd Rose. I'm just a huge Vernon Reed fan, and I love the way it looks. One came in gold with a cool pickguard, and one came in black with a cool pickguard. At least I thought it was cool and crazy. I think Vernon Reed's cool and crazy, so I think his guitars are cool and crazy. I just thought it'd be, cool to check out. And it was one of those things where I was like, oh, I know the guys at PRS. Maybe they'll give me a accommodation pricing. And they just didn't have one. And by the time, well, not by the time, they just never had one in stock. And then they stopped making it. And they're like, there's just no way to hook you up. But I would have definitely bought one and put it on the channel and seen if I liked it. Let me know what you think of it. I'm really curious, as I love the Vela and I love the, I just love the Vela. My concern was the soft V-neck is going to be different. My guess is it's pretty cool. I don't know. Hanson 528319. Do Les Paul Murphy Labs have QC issues like standard? I did a video. I bought a Gibson RO and it had QC issues. And So yeah, they have QC issues. I've said this before. I'll say it again. If you're the type of personality that is not going to be okay with a guitar having issues, do not buy Gibson guitars. This isn't a slam against Gibson guitars. I just showed you a Gibson guitar. I have a Gibson guitar right there. I have a Gibson R9. I have a Gold Top. I have an ES335. I have the I don't know what I have. I have a bunch of Gibsons. Gibsons, that's just how the company works. There's just little flaws and little idiosyncrasies. What I can tell you from my personal experience, though, is when guitars get really expensive at Gibson, it is hard for me to be so passive about it. I mean, look, $2,500 is a lot of money. It is. But, if I go through $2,500 Gibson Les Pauls, I'm going to see an issue here and there. The issues are mostly cosmetic. It's just by the design, how they build the guitars. They build them the same way they used to. I tell everybody, if you want a guitar that's flawless, you go to like ESP or Paul Reed Smith or Music Man, where you're not going to find any issues at all. That's just something those companies strive for. Gibson's just never had, strive for like this perfect no issue guitar. And so that's my experience. So, and somebody's going to say, oh, I have a Murphy Lab and it's great. Yes, you can have a Murphy Lab and it's great. You can have a ton of Gibsons and they're great. But I'm going off the odds. The odds are not that you will have a problem, because it's definitely not. I wouldn't say like 60% of all Gibsons are bad. And when I say bad, I just mean cosmetically. Most of them play great. They sound great. They just need a little fit and finish issue work or a little bit of a setup. And if one more person puts in the comments, one more person says shenanigans. No, they always put, yeah, but they pleck them. That doesn't mean anything. Like I said, that doesn't mean anything. Plex are great. As you know, I'm a champion of the Plex system. I've done videos about it and why it's great, but it's not Plex does not mean perfect, guaranteed. It means more likely, but not guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed. Every guitar is going to have a bad day. Rummy says PRSs are not flawless. Total hype. Rummy, you are wrong. To say that they're 100% flawless, no one would say that. Like I've said, no guitar is perfect. It's made of wood, and it's made by hand, and hands have flaws. But PRS, ESP, there are companies, and you can look. I've been to those factories. I've been to all these guys' factories. I'll tell you exactly what they all strive for. They all have different mission statements internally. Music Man and PRS are really trying to get you a flawless guitar. Look, if you want to argue the whole PRS has no soul and PRS is this and it's for lawyers and doctors, that's fine. I have all the opinions you want. I've put my hands in thousands, if not tens of thousands of guitars, and I can tell you who does what wrong. And I do deep dive videos. You can see in the deep dive videos, I can tell you who's doing the best and who's doing the least when it comes to flaws. And what I don't tell you guys in the videos, but I'll tell you now, is I don't give a shit about 90% of stuff that I show you in the videos. It doesn't matter to me. I only show you because I care that you guys get the information, right? So you can have an informed decision. I've had to work really hard on the channel on tops, talking about tops. I don't care about tops. It doesn't matter to me. I've said this before. To me, the prettier a top on a guitar, the more fake and cheap the guitar looks like to me, because if you work on every guitar, which I've done, cheap guitars look great. Veneers are easy to do. They spray stain them. They don't burn through them with sandpaper. There's not a lot of handwork done. A cheap company that makes a $200 guitar can make a guitar that looks fantastic. If that's all you care about, they've nailed it. But the small details, they're going to be missing. So like I said, sometimes I don't care about the tops, because I'm like, to me, when a top's got a problem or it doesn't look great, I go, oh, well, I know it's real. But I realized from the years of doing this, you guys react like, for that kind of money, the top should be great. And I'm like, well, you're right. It should be great. But that's not something I personally care about. But like I said, when I talk about guitars, like Schecter guitars, if I say Schecter guitars are great, but no 100% of Schecter guitars are great. That's insane. Okay. But I'm telling you, as someone who doesn't want to, if I'm treating you like a friend, which I am treating you like a friend and saying, hey, check out this guitar. It's like saying, hey, to me, and this is how strong I feel about this. To me, it's like saying a Honda Accord or a Toyota Camry. It's like, hey, Phil, I need a good car that's going to get 100,000 miles. Honda Accord. Could you get a Honda Accord and blow an engine in 20,000 miles? Absolutely. But what are the odds of that happening? It's definitely not the odds it's going to happen. It's the odds it's not going to happen. Same thing with guitars. My theory is, from all the years of experience, is if you buy a Gibson Les Paul, American Gibson Les Paul, you're probably going to find a flaw. That's it. And if that bugs you, like I said, stay away from it. If it doesn't matter, then it doesn't matter. But if it does matter, here are some brands that are going to be more meticulous about the way things look. The one thing that people have confused for many years, and I've done so many videos over the years trying to like explain this, and especially with companies like PRS, is somebody will say, well, I bought a PRS and the top doesn't look great. I've explained this. Okay. PRS, how they work, like let's use the 10 top logic. And sadly enough, the guitars I could use as an example are cased up right now. They're in bags in the other room. But I have a 10 top PRS, and it's not as nice as my other PRS. It's not a 10 top. That's a fact. I have those two guitars. I've shown them on the channel. A 10 top, I don't care what PRS says, does not guarantee you a pretty top. It guarantees that they picked the best top at the time. And I've used this analogy. I'll use it many times over with Paul Reed Smith. If you go to the grocery store and you go to the produce manager and you say, pick me 5 of the best apples you have, and he gives you 5 apples and one looks wrong and it's got a soft spot and you're like, this isn't great. It doesn't mean it's great. It was the best of the apples in that bushel that he picked. Okay, so if you go through the other apples, trust me, when you go through, you go, oh, these are horrible. Yeah, that's why I picked those 5. Those are the best of the bushel. If you buy a Paul Reed Smith and they happen to get a bunch of great wood, okay, and it's just all beautiful tops, you would think that PRS takes all those beautiful tops and marks them all 10 top and then waits for more wood to come. They can't do that. I've told you that's why I go to the factories, to learn how they think and how they all operate. That is not economically feasible for them. They can't sit on, 500 wood tops and then wait for more wood. They have to make guitars. So it is possible you can get a PRS non-10 top and get a fantastic artist top grade, because they picked all the artist tops, they picked all the 10 tops, and just some of the other tops were great. And they just used those too. It's possible to get a great top on an S2, because again, and it's also sadly possible, because I've sold these and I've had to take care of the customers, which is not a fun experience when a customer orders a 10 top for you or an artist top and they get it and you open the case and they go, that looks horrible. And I'm like, yeah, it does. Let's call them. So, right? Because they say the same thing. The customer goes, why would PRS send this out? And I'm like, well, it's because it's the best apple of the bushel at the time. That's the best top they had. I believe that. I watched the employees do it. Now, granted, could an employee screw up still? Sure, mistakes can happen. I'm not justifying anything, as you know. No one is not accountable on this channel. Like I said, I'm not here to praise any one brand or another. It's just to give you what each brand does well and badly is in my viewpoint of that, from what I've seen. So like I said, that's why I say, you could get a PRS that's not gonna have flaws. It's not likely to be flawed. It's more likely to get a flawed guitar from a much smaller builder. And so another one is a good example is Suhr Guitars. Not very likely to get a flawed guitar. Again, their quality assurance is something they focus on. PRS, in my opinion, does not have the quality assurance it did 10 years ago. It just doesn't. That's literally from doing a factory tour over 10 years ago and doing a factory tour now. I do not see the same, but I also see a company making almost twice as many guitars they did 10 years ago. So I'm not excusing it. Again, I'm explaining it. Okay. I get it. I don't know how to answer the question. It's hard to criticize somebody if I don't do it. I don't know how to hire double the staff and then give you the same quality. I don't understand how to do it. So, and apparently they can't do it actually either. So, and also wood's getting harder and harder to, beggars can't be choosers. So I hope that all makes sense when I go on these little tirades like this. It's mostly because, again, I just want you to understand, I'm not telling you I'm more right than anyone else. I'm just telling you what I saw, and I don't sugarcoat anything. Everything is explained the way I see it. The only thing I won't do is I will not crap on someone's work, because that's just the difference, talking about product with shortcomings and stuff, but I won't flat out, again, I don't crap on the waiter if the meal's bad. That's what I'm trying to say. I'll talk about it. I'll be honest about it. I'll be fair about it, but I'm not going to be belligerent or rude, because I work for a living. And if you work for a living, then you know what working for a living's like. You want everybody to treat you with respect and kindness, and then learn from there. Okay. Hold on. By the way, I used to say what I say about Paul Reed Smith 15 years ago, 20 years ago. I would have said that about Ibanez. Ibanez hasn't gone down in quality. Just Ibanez makes a lot of levels now, so that it's impossible to say Ibanez makes great stuff, because they make so many levels of product that, I would say Ibanez Japan's still amazing. So in my experience. Sorry, I told you I get caught up in some of your guys' comments are funny. Yeah, Beavis says, this is why I build my own guitars. I have full control of QC. Absolutely. Well, look, if some people enjoy building their own guitars. It's very exciting. Me, I'm excited to build them, work on them, buy them, be around them, talk about them. Yeah, but I get it. Rob Baker says, unfortunately, you can get a Sir that's not fantastic as well. Again, and he says it happens. It happens. It does happen. Like I said, we're not talking about if it doesn't happen, which Rob understands. We're talking about likelihood, right? Again, I'm sticking with the Honda Accord analogy. Likelihood a Honda Accord won't make it 100,000 miles. It's more likely it's going to, right? And same logic here with guitars. There's likelihood that this guitar will be right versus wrong. Like, let me ask you this. How many Glary guitars do you think were wrong? A lot. I reviewed a bunch of them. That's why I reviewed so many of them. I reviewed as many as I could on the channel. And if you watch the reviews, literally, they were all over the place. One was unplayable. One was fantastic. One was all right. It's exactly what I expected. I hated it it happened exactly as I expected. I didn't want it to go that way, but I knew it. I knew when I got a great one, that was rare. So I was like, there's no way. And I was like, oh, and then when I got a bad one, I was like, okay, well, what else do we even get? So again, the faster they make guitars, the more problems you're going to have. Zanzibar says, I need a new example. Hondas are not that good anymore. I disagree again. I have tons of Hondas. New Hondas. They last. Again, if you're going to say like they did before, that's fine. But my daughter's car has 125,000 miles on her Honda Accord. And I would literally get her a new car if she would let me. And she loves her car and she's going to keep driving it. And I'd love to tell you she takes care of it. She doesn't. So again, I will put the Honda Accord, and I told you, I don't know crap about cars, but I know this. I'll put a Honda Accord against, a Ford or a Chevy any day when it comes to lasting. On average, again, not just one car. Don't cherry pick one car from each one. I'm talking about on average. So I think it's actually considered one of the most reliable cars. Yeah, see, Jim says that's why I got a Toyota Tacoma. Again, so no one's like a fanboy here going, oh, Honda's the best, Toyota's the best, PRS is the best. I'm just giving you, like, statistically, we can go through the data, and the data will show that's where it's coming out. Jeff B says 125,000 miles, not a lot of miles. Jeff, you would crap. I have owned 3 trucks in the last 10 years. I don't think I broke barely over 20,000 miles on any of the trucks. I don't drive. So, yeah, I'm sure I agree with what you're saying, but yeah, unfortunately, you're talking to somebody who never goes anywhere. So, okay. Let's see. We need to go back to guitar stuff. I'm not going to do a car channel. All right. Litve says, there's a demo Eastman ES for $1,100 at Sweetwater. Interested if you'd replace your 335 if you can beat this number in dollars. We're already there. My 335. So Litvae, interesting enough. I don't love my 335. I think I've talked about that. It's good. It's a great guitar. I'm just not bonded with it anyway. I don't plan to get rid of it anyway unless I find something else, and I haven't found that. So I don't understand what the question is. There's an Eastman for $1,100. I already bought my birthday guitar, so I'm good there. But let's just say I'm open to the idea of trading out the ES335 one day. Because out of all the Gibsons, it's the only one I'm not loving of all my Gibsons. I just don't know what it is. It's great. It's a great guitar. I think the reason is, and again, this is where it's important to know the history behind things. I played a used Gibson ES335 at a Guitar Center one day, obviously 2020 probably, and 2019, and I fell in love with it. And it was a weird situation. There was a price tag on the guitar, and going back, I would have totally bought it. I didn't know the market was going to explode. Obviously, no one saw COVID coming, for the market. I can't remember off the top of my head, so please just let me be generic about the numbers because I'll give you a reference. At least you'll understand the story. I was at the Guitar Center. I picked up this used ES335. Say used, I want to say, I don't know when it was, 2000s, right, whatever. It looked amazing. It was kind of worked in a little bit, played great, felt great, sounded great. I was with Ralph. I go, love this guitar. The price tag, I kind of trying to remember, was like $1,900, like $1,899 or something like that. And the employee walked up to me. I've never had this happen. They walked up and they go, I can make you a deal on that guitar. I'm like, really? I'm like, well, I'm a buyer. And so he walks away and he comes back and he goes, I can do it for $2,300 or something like that. And I go, and I hold the tag and I go, it's $1,899. He goes, that's the wrong tag on the guitar. And I'm like, oh, well, can you do $1,899? He's like, no, I can do $2,300. And I'm like, so I put it down on the wall and we laughed. Going back, I would have bought it. Now, keep in mind, the numbers are off. I don't know exactly the number. I just remember it was marked lower than what he said. And I had a little shell shock with the anchor pricing. To me, I was thinking, how am I going to spend $1,900 on this? And then when he came back with more than $2,000, I was like, that's more. I didn't even want a deal. I was just trying to justify that price. And so when it went up, going back, two things. One, I would have bought it. Two, I definitely would have left. I should have done this. I knew better, right? I knew better. It was probably a Saturday because Ralph came over on a Saturday. We probably ran and we were probably trying to get back to the house and stuff. And knowing what I know, the right answer should have been, I should have left, go get a coffee or something, come back 30, 40 minutes later, walked up to a totally different employee, grab the guitar, hand it to him, and buy the guitar and leave. And I would have got it for the right price, the $1,899, whatever it was. That's just how, corporations are, right? But but again, I didn't know that the prices were going to go haywire and stuff. Grumpy My Guitar says, hey, for the Tone Jar, after 35 plus years playing Ernie Ball strings, I'm about to give String Joys a try. Do you have any opinions on them? Cheers, and sorry for missing the last couple weeks. No worries. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. String Joy Strings, like I said, I'm friends with the guys. Blake is amazing. They're amazing guys at String Joy. I like them, which is why I like the strings. The quality is really good. Strings, like I said, I like D'Addario. I use Ernie Ball now for the 12-string guitars, which is over there behind me. And did I get Ernie Balls for something else? But my answer to you is, I think you should try them. I say this all the time. It's $15. String Joy strings are expensive. They're like elixirs in the cost wise. $15 for strings. But what I would recommend, Grumpy Mike, if you're going to try String Joy strings, have some fun. It doesn't cost. One thing that makes String Joy not as expensive, is you can go on their website and build out a custom set of strings. So build yourself a custom set of strings to have some fun, right? And try something new. And so, and that way it won't matter. And for the price, look, man, there's no return. There's no $15 thing you can do in guitar gear that's going to yield as much as just getting some strings. So I would do that. But I don't know if you're going to go, wow, these are so much better than my Ernie Balls. But you might have fun if you try a different gauge set or experiment with different gauges. Daniel says, does the size of the frets affect the guitar sound? I mean, technically, in the idea that you play differently, yeah, I would say yeah. I mean, obviously, fret material sometimes has an effect on the sound, but the size of the fret, I think it affects the way you play, so therefore it affects the way you sound. I think things that affect the way you play are going to have much bigger effect than just, like, let me put it this way. A fret technically could make you play different, which means it could have a bigger effect on the sound than the tone would, right? Or the material of the bridge. It could literally, like I said, things that make you, to me, having a thicker, thinner neck changes the guitar tone, not only sonically because of the way it's constructed, but just the way I play is so different. If you give me thinner necks, I start playing faster and my notes don't sustain as long, and it's just, I just change up how I play, and then I don't like the way I play on a thinner neck. I just don't enjoy it. But I also don't like the way it sounds because I don't like the way I play. So yeah, I could say that a fret could have that effect. He says, but I'm specifically asking about sound, not feel. I don't know. That's to me, we're in the 1% world of that. So yes, we'll give it the 1%. Yeah, we'll have it change 1%. Does that mean it can't be corrected with a tone control or a knob or type of string? There's so many things that are more important to the way something's going to sound than that, in my experience. I'm a fan of huge frets. I'm missing out on something. No, I like huge frets too. I like bigger frets. Thomas says, some beer funds for the weekend, and I got a shipping notice on my Holoflesh. Yeah, I saw you post it yesterday that you got a shipping notice. That's good. That's good to hear. Definitely. Daniel, again, also says pickup pole pieces. Any preferences? Flush with the bobbin, slightly higher or lower, any pattern you like? I don't even care. This staggered pole pieces concept, some people are diehards on that, like absolutely have to adjust them. I've done it for years for players where they're like, this is exactly how they want it. Some will say, you need the middle ones higher. Some people say the high strings need to be higher. They're staggered pole pieces. I've experimented with making pickups with so many different heights on there. Again, the differences are subtle. They're there. In comparison, I can hear differences. But in a guitar, it's where I focus. It's at some point you have to focus the energy in the things that give you the most bang for the buck. So, I mean, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, I think you'll have fun. I did. But don't expect, night and day difference in sound. It's going to be subtle differences in sustain, subtle differences in bass response or in high-end response, and that's it. Spanky New Shoes says, what is your take on Reverb's changes to using typical new price? Oh, I saw that recently. That's a good subject. Let's go into that. Reverb in itself is just scaring the crap out of me. I'm having issue with Reverb right now because you can only talk to AI. So I'm not getting a person, and I'm asking questions. The AI is like just shooting out ridiculous answers that aren't making any sense to me. But I'm getting there. It says, it says, so if you don't know, let's just show. Let's go into it. Let's see if I have anything. Hey, have I have anything in my favorites? Am I looking at? Oh, I am. Okay. So I'll show you what I'm looking at in my favorites. I don't know why I'm looking at this. This is weird. I think I was probably curious about prices. Okay, so this is what he's discussing. What he's saying is this is new. It says, hey, here's a used small box pedal for $110. Excuse me, I had to drink water. It says typical new price $199, savings $89.99. $90. Excuse me. I'm seeing this like you. It's a new feature. Hold on. Okay. So what do I think of it? I thought it was weird too, because it doesn't really tell me anything. It's like, obviously in that point, it means that they're selling used for half of new. I guess more information's good. I think more than talk, I just wanted to talk about it because you saw your question, and I thought this is something that's cool to know, but I don't know why they're necessarily doing it. There's a thing in sales called anchor pricing. So Sorry, getting to the end of the show. Okay, there's a thing called anchor pricing in sales. So like you basically say, hey, this is $3,000, but we can sell it to you for $2,499. And they immediately anchor you to the highest price. And so therefore your brain goes, that's a good deal because the first price was $3,000. It's just an old sales tactic. And maybe Reverb is using that same kind of logic. Like, you know, you're seeing $200 as the anchor price, and now it's $100, so it's half off. That's a really good deal. So maybe that's the logic there on that. I don't see it as a bad thing, other than you need to be aware that there's something called anchor pricing, and it is effective. And somebody's going to say in the comments, as they always do, it doesn't work on me. Maybe it doesn't, but it works on a lot of people. It's a very effective technique. There was another part to this question. Seems they're inflating the savings to get people to jump on a lower price. Look, we know sales are down. They're dramatically down. But I want to stick with the data still is showing exactly what I said last time, just a couple podcasts ago. Really expensive stuff still moving. It's crazy. Still crazy to watch it. It's still crazy. It is absolutely having that. It's absolutely happening that way. So there's still people out there buying high-end gear. It's crazy. Not maybe at the level they were, obviously, but they're still it's still moving. And then the lower and the mid-price gear seems to be hurting the most. So that's part of it. And I mean that in the way of when I've been selling some stuff lately, the mid-price and lower stuff, everybody wants a deal. They're just sending me offers like crazy, lowballing me like crazy. The higher end stuff's just moving. No one's really lowballing me. They're just taking the price and going. So that seems to be the trend. We'll see how long that lasts. That's not normal for the most part, but it's interesting. But yeah, new feature, and I'm sure it is exactly that. It's to help sales, because sales, I'm sure, are down. Okay. Did I answer oh, okay. Spanky New Shoes. Oh, let's do this one first. Spanky New Shoes says, what is your take on Reverb? Oh, I did this one. Okay, so it's Daniel again. Okay, Daniel says, pick up pole pieces. Any preferences? We did that. Flush and bow. Okay, I see where it's going. Daniel, I know what it is. It's because people are asking multiple questions. Daniel says, tone caps. When the tone knob is fully opened, do value of the material... Oh, my goodness. I'm going to say no. I'm just going to... It's too long of a question. Well, you know, the problem is what he's getting at is he wants to know is if the values basically of the capacitors have an effect when the tone control is fully open. Technically, yes, that's why some companies like Fender make something called a no-load tone control, where essentially it goes, it's no longer making connection, so it's removed from the circuit. Again, this is very small, minute changes in sound. To say that it has no effect would not be accurate, but to say it has an effect that you could audibly detect. And I've done so many comparisons now that the one rule I've just learned to follow for myself, and that's what I kind of reiterate to you guys, other than the entertainment value of making a video comparing two things, definitely I enjoy those, and I hope you do too. But other than comparing two things, if you have to compare it, it doesn't matter. Okay? What I mean by that is, I've said this all the time with tube screamers. If you compare a real, vintage tube screamer to a cheap tube screamer, and you go, oh, the vintage one sounds a little warmer, it doesn't matter. To me, what should be noticeable is when you plug into a cheap tube screamer is that it doesn't sound good and it doesn't sound like a tube screamer. I've had this, so that's what I look at now. It's when I plug into something or I play something. It's like if I plug in a guitar and go, why does it sound like there's a blanket over the speaker? Why does this sound so dead? Why does it not sound right? Then I go through and I go, oh, that's why. And therefore, that is valuable to me. But to me to go, it sounds fine. But now I'm hearing this other thing, and the other thing has slightly more clarity. This is not as clear. I don't really care. If I can't detect it without the comparison, it doesn't matter to me anymore. And that's what comparing things taught me. And so I literally keep seeing YouTubers that have been doing this as long as I have, or longer, or almost as long. Um, the saying the same thing. It's what happens when you do hundreds and hundreds of comparisons. It's not that it doesn't matter. It's just you start noticing, like if you have to dive down that hard. Think of this. I've done, me personally, I'm curious if any YouTubers ever watch this, if you could put a comment too. I'm really curious. I've done so many comparison videos that I've never put out on the internet. That's why some reasons I slowed down some of the comparison videos I did. I've done so many comparison videos that I've never published to you guys because in the video I can't hear a difference at all. It's like whatever I'm hearing in the room is so minor that I'm in the room going, yeah, it's a little brighter. Then I watch the video and it's no difference. And you're like, I don't want to deal with the comment sections because they're just going to say, I don't hear any difference. I'm like, yeah, because it was barely noticeable in the room. It's not noticeable in the recording. That happens. Although I've had it happen the other way too. I have not as much by any means, but I've had it where I've done a video and I thought there was no difference. And then listen to playback, there's massive difference. Perfect example is that when I did this SLO 30 versus the EVH head, they were so close. It was ridiculous in the room, but in the video there was more difference. In the recording, which is why I said in that video, and I stick with this, that the Seldano SLO amps record really well, and that's what I learned from that. Is that I did a bunch of recordings with it, and I learned that in the room that not as noticeable, but recorded definitely noticeable. Hanson wants to know, Hanson 5283919 says, are Murphy Les Paul's worth it? I don't know if they're worth it. I don't know how to judge that. Worth it is not is it a good quality instrument? Yes. Do they hold some value? Yes. Those are questions I can answer. Is it a good guitar? Does it sound good? Yeah, absolutely. It's an amazing instrument by far. But also in that same regards, I could say, are there guitars for a quarter of the price that are just as good? Yes, absolutely. Would that make you happy? Probably not. Sounds to me from your two questions, you really want a Murphy lab. If you got the money, there's worse things you can do with it. So that's what's great about nice guitars. I've said this before, say what you want about Gibson. I will tell you this honestly over and over and over again. You just heard me going on my tirade about Paul Reed Smith. If you ask me a question, do you think PRS makes a better quality instrument than Gibson? I absolutely think so. Do you think Gibson's resale value is better? It's absolutely better. It's absolutely better than PRS. It's not even the same question. So, and even vibe's cooler to me. Gibson has a cooler vibe. I would love if PRS would do more of a less polished looking instrument like Gibson. I kind of don't like it to look super nice. And that kind of vintage style instrument. Vintage instruments, I want them to look, like they've been played. Not relict, just like they've been played. I want them to be aged. And shiny new guitars and metallic guitars, I want them to look shiny new. It's kind of like, I don't mind a dent in the truck, and I would cry in a dent in a sports car, right? It's kind of the same logic for me. But it sounds to me like, Hanson, you really want a Murphy's Lab. And like, all I can tell you is this. Not only is it the policy of the podcast, if you say you should buy a guitar, we say yes. Literally, I can name 10 things that cost the same amount of money. There would be worse investments. A jacuzzi, a used jet ski, right? You're better off with a Murphy Lab. And I'm not giving you investment advice. I'm just telling you, yeah, by far, it's a good investment or a good guitar to get. That's what I'm trying to say. Music Therapy Laz says, hey, Phil, did you go to the Sammy Hagar VH show? I did not. I'm going tomorrow. And what's my favorite Sammy Hagar VH Van Halen song? I can't tell you guys. I'll lose half the audience. The unsubscribes will go so high. So as always, I'm going to do it. Get ready to lose 1,000 subscribers. It's humans being. I could tell you, one, I like the Twister soundtrack. I like the Twister movie. I went to the movie theater. I love Twister. It was amazing. I had a red Dodge truck because of that movie. I mean, I didn't have it then because I didn't have the money then. But the first time I could buy I bought a big dumb red Dodge truck. That model, that thing. Why? I don't know. I just love the movie. Happened to me, right? It was probably that movie and Jurassic Park were movies when I look back at great movies that I enjoyed in the theaters. Those were movies I enjoyed in the theaters. After seeing Twister, I went to Universal Studios Florida and I went on the Twister ride, which isn't a ride. You just sit there and they just reenact it and have wind and stuff. I loved it. I love the riff. I love the song. I've read the book Red by Sammy Hagar. I know how he feels about the song. He hated it. He even said that he, basically just half-assed the video. He didn't seem to like the song. Didn't hurt my feelings. None of my friends seemed to like it. To me, the song Humans Being by Van Halen with Sammy Hagar, saying you like that is like saying you like the Metallica Black Album. There's a 70% chance you just lost whoever you're talking to in the conversation. But the reality is you're a product of the time, the moment, and that's the time and the moment for me that lined up. I just liked it. I liked the way the guitar sounded when it was like cleaner and then it got meaner. And that around that time in music was getting heavier. And I was really, really into the music that was making my car stereo move. So I don't know. I liked it. So that's my favorite song by Sammy Hagar Van Halen. Or Van Hagar, whatever you want to call it. Lock Sustainer says, hey Phil, thoughts on the Gibson bass 3-point bridge? Annoying, upgrade it, hip shot, go to hip shot. Popular opinion seems to be to change it. Yeah, I would change it. There's no downside to changing it. Hip shot's a superior bridge. It's going to be easier. And it's easy to change out. So I would do that. Alan says, hey, Boss Katana 50 MK2 versus Vox VT40 for the bedroom. I would say let me look. I want to just go Boss Katana. That's just how it works. I would say I've been upfront about this. I like the Line 6 Catalyst slightly more than the Boss Katana, but it's not. I don't like the Boss Katana. I think the Boss Katana is. It's one of the best solid state amps. Whatever you want to call it, amps that. So I'm looking at the amp that you're talking about right now. I like. Modeling guitar amp. I don't know anything about the Vox one. I'm looking at it. I don't know that amp, the VTX40 at all. It looks cooler. Let me look at it. Let me show you. This looks cooler than the Boss Katana. Other than looks, I would say Boss Katana. I think the Boss Katana is a great amplifier. It's just a fantastic. It's a game-changing amplifier in the idea that for the price point and its quality, you could gig with it. You could do anything with that amplifier. I'm not a huge. So the reason, and this is probably the most important thing to explain on the Boss Katana and versus the Line 6 Catalyst. I was able to, for me personally, find more usable tones in the Catalyst for me, and I think that's because my ear for distortions, I tend to like Line 6 distortions over Boss distortions. That's basically so like. The Line 6 overdrives to me, I just kind of get a tone that I like a little bit better than some of the Boss distortions. But if I was using those amps as pedal platforms, I wouldn't even care. I'd probably just Boss Katana is more than fine. I would just use a pedal in front of it and be done. But to me, at some point, I was like, I like the idea of not having to need pedals, and so the Catalyst just won by a little bit because I like the overdrives. But other than liking the overdrives a little bit more in the Catalyst, I think the Boss Katana is more than an adequate amp for anything you need. It's not amazing. It's just really damn good. Warham5 says, hey, Phil, looking for a small amp head with spring reverb, clean like Fender, nice overdrive, and at even quiet volume, Mesa Mark 5 25 or DG15. Those are two. It's like saying, should I go with a Marshall JC100 or a Fender, a Fender twin reverb? They're little different animals. I have both those amps. So here's the easy part. I have the Mesa Mark 525. I have the DGT15. I like them both for different reasons. If you made me say, Phil, you can only have one, it's going to be the Mesa Mark 5. It's very versatile. The one thing, well, the Mesa doesn't have tremolo, but you can put tremolo in front of it. You can put a pedal. And the Mesa gain structure doesn't get as clean. Like the clean channel gets clean, but the gain structure doesn't get as rock blues clean as I like the DGT-15. But I could put a light overdrive pedal in front of the Mesa Mark V and be fine. Mesa Mark V, but it's also a much different expense point. But right now, you can get really good deals on the Mesa Mark V. So Mesa Mark V 25 is the winner for those two amps. Rummy says, hey, Phil, I'm considering a Friedman Little Sister. Any concern about being a PC board versus the hand-wired Dirty Shirley Mini? I didn't know that was the difference. I'm going to say the answer is no. The argument that I've seen amp techs talk about, especially online, about PC stuff versus hand-wired is the ease of use in working on it. I understand that, but look, and again, just to be very clear, my iPhone is $1,000, like $1,200, right? And I'm supposed to, and you're lucky if you keep that 2-3 years. And then, you got to, by the time they're on the 3rd or 4th update, your phone's running slow. You got to get a new one. My point is that I don't look at a PC board amp as throwaway technology. I look at it as like, yeah, I understand if it has an issue, it's more expensive to fix, or it can't be fixed, which is possible. But that's not a concern for me, is basically what I'm trying to say. There's things I like about hand-wired amps. In fact, I did this video with Taylor Cox from Amplified Nation, and I think in that video, if you watch that podcast with us, this is what I said, and I was saying it really quickly, so you might have missed it because we were just talking back and forth. What I said to him was, and he agreed, he nodded, because I was just curious to see if he was thinking in my wavelength. I was saying that hand-wired amps tend to be better because they can charge more for them, so they put better components in them. And he's like, yeah. So that's what I've experienced, is that hand-wired amps have better transformers because people will pay for it. Why put the most expensive transformer in an amp that somebody's trying to get a bargain price on? With Friedman stuff, Friedman stuff is legit. I love everything Friedman I've ever bought. I've never gotten rid of a single Friedman product because I didn't like it. I have no... and again, I always, because it's nice to know, I guess the bias. Friedman sent me a boost pedal once, not Friedman, but Boutique. I never even reviewed it because I was like, oh, I don't know, I didn't know what to do with it. And because I know one of the owners at Friedman, they gave me a deal on my small box 50. They gave me dealer pricing on it. So I did dealer pricing on small box. I bought my, they sent me my JJ Jr., which is, but I did buy my Runt. I bought my Dirty Shirley Mini. I bought my Pink Taco. I bought my Twin Sister. I bought all those amps, all at full price, so that's my thing for Friedman. I have no like, hey, they hooked me up with gear, so they're great. I wish they would. I wish I could get it right. In fact, they would. I can tell you right now, if I could get the hellacious hookup with Friedman, I probably have nothing but Friedman gear for the most part, because I really like it. I really like their stuff. I'm not a huge fan of the clean. The Twin Sister is probably my favorite clean amp of his. The Buxom Betty was. Oh, by the way, that was the pedal they sent, the Buxom Boost. Buxom Betty is pretty cool, but it doesn't have the overdrive. So yeah, I'll praise Friedman forever. Friedman is, like I said, Friedman is what I wish Marshall would be like now. If in a perfect world, and we'll end on this because I said this before. I told Dave Friedman this once. I said, "You're one amplifier. Marshall's one amplifier away from putting out of business." Boy, how wrong was I when I said that? Now Marshall's not even going to think about making an amplifier to put them out of business, but they could have. If Friedman amps had Marshall on them, I would even love them even more. Right? That would be the perfect amp for me, is a Friedman amp that says Marshall on it. It's the look I like, and it's the sound I want. It's the Marshall. It's the modern Marshall. And Brian says, I know you guys keep saying that. Phil needs to review the new Friedman Plex. I'm not going to buy a Plex. I like the small box. I imagine the Plex maybe is different, better, a little worse, but I'm not unhappy. And those amps are just too expensive to just kind of willy-nilly buy and throw on the channel and see if I like it when I'm already happy with what I like. But that's my 2 cents on the Friedman stuff. And I don't care, like I said, if it's a PC board or hand wired. I just care about the quality, and the quality's there. And I think I see that consistently on the reviews online too, is that the Friedman stuff's pretty good. But who knows? Who knows? Like I said, I'm not an amp guy. I'm a guitar guy for repairs. So trust me for guitar repairs, but on amp repairs, all I can give you is what you guys probably already know too, is what I've experienced and how well it did or not did. Okay, do I have any announcements I have to make? Other than I want to thank the moderators for taking care of, sending me questions, taking care of stuff, being awesome, letting you guys know the links, letting you guys know the super chats are over. Thank you to the winners that won the pedals. Like I said, if we don't hear from you, we'll reach out to you guys and get you those pedals. And what else? That's it. I'll see you guys next Friday. Please look for this week's videos. And if you haven't seen the Eastman video, watch that. It's a cool deep dive. I was really interesting. And on that note, I think I'll let you go. All right. As always, thank you for your time. Know your gear.
Today's episode of the Know Your Gear podcast is brought to you by Patreon members, channel members, and viewers who like and subscribe. Thank you for making this possible. The Know Your Gear podcast.